Margaret slammed her hands on the table, making the crystal glasses shake. "You're nothing but a gold digger taking advantage of my son," she shouted, her voice echoing through the dining room. In an instant, our peaceful family dinner turned into chaos. I'm Olivia, 29 years old, and I was watching my mother-in-law of 3 years completely lose control in front of everyone. The carefully prepared Sunday roast sat untouched as Margaret continued her rant. "Mom, please," my husband James tried to interrupt, but she silenced him with a sharp wave of her manicured hand. "No, I've kept quiet long enough." She grabbed my plate and threw it across the table, sending food flying. "I want you out of my house and away from my son." Now, I stayed calm, though my heart pounded. I had learned that reacting only gave Margaret more power. The rest of the family, James's sister Emma, her husband, and their elderly Aunt Martha, sat in stunned silence. "I have proof," Margaret declared, pulling out her phone. "Those secret meetings, those long phone calls, I hired someone to follow you." James looked up in shock. "You did what?" Margaret shoved the phone across the table. "Look, meeting strange men at cafes, visiting fancy hotels in the middle of the day. She's either cheating or running some kind of scam." I almost laughed. Those meetings were with real estate agents and financial advisors. I had been quietly investigating suspicious money movements in Margaret's charity foundation, the one she used to maintain her social status. "Margaret," I said, standing up, "be careful throwing around accusations." "Are you threatening me?" she snapped. "Not at all. Just suggesting you focus on your own affairs." I let the words sink in. For a moment, I saw something flash in her eyes. Fear, maybe? Then it was gone, replaced by anger. "Get out! Now!" she screamed. I turned to James, hoping he would finally stand up for me, but he stared at his plate. "Aren't you going to say anything?" I asked. He hesitated. Maybe you should go. Just until Mom calms down." And that was it, the final betrayal. I grabbed my purse and nodded. "Okay, James, if that's what you want." Margaret smirked. "We all know you only married James for his money anyway." I walked to the door, then turned back. "You seem very concerned about James's money. Maybe we should talk about the Henderson Foundation's finances sometime." Margaret's face turned pale. "What about the foundation?" James asked, suddenly paying attention. "Nothing," Margaret snapped. "She's just trying to cause trouble." I didn't wait for more. I walked out into the cool evening air, hearing Margaret spin her story behind me. She would paint herself as the loving mother protecting her son from a scheming wife. What she didn't know was that I had been preparing for this moment for months. Every suspicious transfer, every hidden transaction, I had documented everything. Before meeting James, I worked in forensic accounting, something Margaret had forgotten in her rush to label me a gold digger. I got into my car and made a call. "Hey, David." "Yeah, it happened." She took the bait. "Start the audit tomorrow." David, an old colleague, had been waiting for my signal. Margaret's need for control had finally led her into a trap of her own making. I drove to a small apartment I had secretly rented months ago. Margaret had been getting more aggressive, and I had known this day would come. Now I knew why. Her lies were catching up with her, and she needed me gone before I could expose her. As I settled into my new space, my phone buzzed with messages from James. "Mom's really upset. Maybe give her time to cool off." "Where are you staying?" I ignored them. Let him worry. Let him sit in his mother's house, eating her food, listening to her lies. The truth would come out soon enough. I walked to my home office and stared at the web of transactions pinned to my wall. 3 years of watching, 6 months of investigating, all leading to this moment. Margaret thought she had won tonight, but she had no idea what was coming. Tomorrow would be very interesting. This morning I woke up to 17 missed calls, 5 from James, 8 from Margaret, 3 from Emma, and 1 from Aunt Martha. I ignored them all, made myself some coffee, and watched the sunrise from my apartment window. By 9 a.m., my phone rang again. It was David. "It's done," he said. "The audit team arrived at the foundation 30 minutes ago." You should have seen Margaret's face when they walked in with their briefcases. I smiled, sipping my coffee. "Let me guess." She tried to stop them. Tried and failed. "The board members you contacted last night had some serious questions about those offshore transfers. They're not leaving without answers." Perfect. Phase 1 was complete. Just then, James called again. This time I answered. "Where are you?" he demanded. "Mom's freaking out. Auditors are at the foundation, and she says you're behind it." "Am I?" I kept my voice even. "Isn't it normal for a charity to go through audits?" "Olivia, stop. What's going on?" "Maybe you should ask your mother about the Henderson Foundation's records, or about the money that went missing from the Children's Hospital Fund." Silence. Then finally, "You're lying." But he didn't sound convinced. "Check her office computer," I said. "Password is your birthday. Look for a folder called Personal Projects. Everything you need is there." I hung up before he could respond. James had spent his life taking the easy way out, letting his mother control everything. Now he had to face the truth. Around noon, Emma knocked on my door. I wasn't surprised. She had always been smart enough to keep a spare key to her mother's filing cabinet. "I found the documents," she said quietly. "The missing hospital funds. Did you know all along?" I stepped aside, letting her in. She looked pale, shaken. "I started suspecting 6 months ago," I admitted. "Why didn't you say anything? Would you have believed me over your mother?" She sat down, running her hands through her hair. "No, probably not. God, Olivia. She stole from sick children. She used foundation money for her shopping, her vacations, and made sure everyone saw her as a generous philanthropist while doing it." Emma swallowed hard. "The hospital wing, the one in Dad's memory. She used that money to buy her beach house, didn't she?" I nodded. Their father had left the foundation in Margaret's care, trusting her to do good. Instead, she had drained its accounts to fund her lifestyle. My phone buzzed. A message from David. "Systematic fraud over 3 years. Board voting to involve authorities. And trying to destroy documents." Too late for that. I had copies of everything. Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. "She's going to lose everything, isn't she? The foundation, her reputation, probably her freedom." She looked at me, eyes filled with something between sadness and realization. "And James? Did you do this to hurt him too?" I turned to the window. "I did this because it was right. Your mother stole from people who needed help, all while calling me a gold digger." Emma let out a slow breath. "James went to the foundation this morning, after the auditors arrived. I've never seen him so angry." "At me?" "At Mom. He caught her trying to delete files. That's when he finally understood." My phone buzzed again, Margaret. I declined the call. Emma sighed. "She's been calling you all morning. Begging, threatening. She wants you to stop the audit." "It's too late." "I know." Emma stood. "I should get back. The board wants to meet with the family. Will you come home?" Home. That word didn't feel right anymore. "Not yet," I said. "James needs to figure some things out first." After she left, I sat at my desk, preparing the final step. Margaret had built her life on lies and stolen money. Now the truth was coming for her. My phone buzzed again. A text from James. "I'm sorry. I should have listened. Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a moment, then set my phone aside. Some conversations could wait. There was still work to be done. Margaret thought she had won when she threw me out of her house. She had no idea she had just set everything in motion. Tomorrow, the board would decide the foundation's future, and Margaret would finally learn sometimes the people you underestimate are the ones you should fear the most. 3 months later, I sat in a courtroom and watched as Margaret was led away in handcuffs. The judge had been firm, 8 years in prison for fraud and embezzlement. Her expensive clothes and perfect hair couldn't hide the defeat on her face. "The court finds the defendant's actions especially terrible," the judge had said. "These funds were meant for children's medical care." James sat 2 rows behind me, his head down. He hadn't moved back in with his mother after that night. Instead, he had done something I never expected. He finally stood up for himself. "She's controlled me my whole life," he admitted to me a month after the truth came out. "I let her because it was easier than fighting. And I let her hurt you because I was too weak to stop her. I'm sorry, Olivia. I know that's not enough, but I'm trying to be better." The foundation was under new leadership. Emma, surprisingly, had stepped up to fix its reputation. She worked hard to regain the trust of donors and make sure everything was done right this time. As people left the courtroom, Aunt Martha caught my eye. She had been the first family member to reach out after Margaret's crimes were exposed. I always knew that woman was trouble. She had told me over tea. The way she treated you, it wasn't right. But you, my dear, you handled it beautifully. The media had a field day with the story. Prominent philanthropist exposed by daughter-in-law. Margaret's carefully crafted image crumbled as every detail of her fraud came to light. The missing hospital funds, the fake charity events, the offshore accounts, it all showed just how greedy she had been. Outside the courthouse, James walked up to me. "Can we talk?" We went to a nearby coffee shop. For a while, we just sat there, watching people pass by outside. "The house is sold," he finally said. "Mom's beach house too. The money is going back to the foundation." I nodded. "Emma told me she's doing a great job." "She is." He turned his coffee cup in his hands. "I've been seeing a therapist, trying to understand why I let Mom control me for so long. Why I didn't stand up for you. And I'm learning. About boundaries, about being my own person. I know it's too late for us, but I wanted you to know what you did, exposing the truth. It set us all free in a way." I thought about everything that had happened in the past 3 months, the investigations, the media frenzy, the family drama. In the end, it hadn't been about revenge. It had been about doing what was right. "The hospital wing," I said. "The one meant to honor your dad. They're finally building it." James smiled, though there was sadness in his eyes. "With the recovered funds. Dad would have liked that." As we left the coffee shop, Emma called. "They found more documents in Mom's storage unit. Looks like she was stealing from Dad's company even before he died." "Are you okay?" I asked. "Yeah, no, but I will be. We all will be." She paused. "Thank you, Olivia, for being braver than all of us." That evening, I stood in my real apartment, the one I had returned to after everything was over. The wall where I had once pinned all my evidence was empty now, except for a single framed photo. James's father at the groundbreaking ceremony of his first hospital project. He looked happy, kind, the opposite of the woman he had married. My phone buzzed. A message from David. "Foundation board meeting tomorrow. They want you to help with new security measures." I smiled. Things were so different now. Margaret had thought that throwing me out of her house would protect her secrets. Instead, it had led to her downfall. James and I would never be together again. Too much had happened. But something good had come from all of this: the truth, justice, and the chance to make a real difference. As I got ready for bed, another message came through from Aunt Martha. "You did good, girl. Sometimes the hardest thing is standing up for what's right, even when it costs us everything." But I hadn't lost everything. I had gained something more important, the knowledge that one person can make a difference. Margaret's lies were over, and in their place, something honest could finally grow. Tomorrow, I would help rebuild the foundation and make sure no one could ever steal from it again. But tonight, I looked at my reflection and smiled, free at last. Sometimes, getting kicked out of a house is just the beginning of finding your way home.